I'm Sarit Quirin, Principal Solutions Architect at Equinix. Over half of enterprises spent more than they budgeted for on cloud last year. Today, I'll show you some techniques that will help you keep your cloud costs as low as possible. So let's start with where the cost actually goes. The biggest line item by volume tends to be compute. And there you'll find a lot of conventional advice that actually works, and it's well handled by FinOps tooling. So you can think of things like reserved instances and right sizing. And of course, the classic shutting off resources that nobody is actually using. Start here, and when you do, make sure you have two things in place. The first is mandatory tagging at the team or workload level. And that's going to help you with the second, which is genuine cost accountability. Now, I know this doesn't happen overnight, but you want to make sure that the people who can actually fix the problem feel the problem in their budget. Now, once all of that is in place, the tooling can get to work. The surprise cost of cloud comes when we're talking about data movement. And that's because it is just so much harder to pin down. You pay to move data pretty much to any other location, also to a different cloud region, for example, over here, or to a different availability zone, depending on the cloud. You also even will pay to move your data to a service within the same availability zone, depending on the service. Now, AI is accelerating this problem. If you have, for instance, a global media platform in mind, now they have to deal with large volume data assets moving between regions, a recommendation engine, pulling data in real time, inference and encoding working simultaneously. You can imagine that even at that kind of scale, you're using a lot of compute, but the data movement costs can actually exceed the cost of compute. Now, for other types of enterprises, these kinds of charges get spread across dozens and sometimes even hundreds, in the case of my customers, hundreds of line items. And so the problem can become really concentrated before anyone actually notices there's an issue. It's just really hard to track down. A global retailer came to us when they realized that their cloud bill had tripled over 18 months without any new products or services and without any significant user growth. After some detective work, they realized that individual teams had started bringing their data out to other providers, replicating that data for redundancy, and then pulling all that data back for analytics. Now, at an individual level, people probably thought they were making smart decisions. But what that all added up to was millions in unplanned data charges. So if you're thinking about your cloud landscape, how can you actually get these data movement charges under control? The single biggest lever you have for controlling your data movement costs is deciding where your data lives relative to where it's being consumed. What you want to do is anchor your data in network-dense, vendor-neutral, standardized hubs that are located physically close to the clouds that you're using today and the ones that you might want to use tomorrow. This will allow you to push data efficiently between regions, and you'll only have to push or pull copies of your data when you actually need to use it. So from and to the cloud, you're actually ending up with far less actual data movement. Now, this will give you a few things. The first thing is that it'll eliminate the most expensive data paths. Now you have these local data paths going from the cloud region into the local hub. You're not any longer bringing things from region to region via the cloud backbone, for example. Now, the second thing it'll give you is a single source of truth. No more do you have to wrangle 6 versions of the same data across different vendors and providers. You have your authoritative data core here. And this will make your life a lot easier because it'll be easier to maintain. The third thing, and possibly the most important thing, is it preserves your freedom to choose and your power to negotiate. The cost of hosting a workload in one cloud versus another can be pretty significant sometimes. And this is very true when you look at things like AI training, right? There are specialized GPU as a service providers that can offer pretty serious price advantages. But you can't use any sort of price advantage if you can't get your data out of where it is without paying tons of money. So if you have that neutral anchored hub, you can bring your data where it needs to go. You pair that with containerized workloads that are no longer dependent on a specific service to run, and you can actually follow those price advantages of compute anywhere that they exist. Equinix customers who have used this model have cut their data movement fees by up to 75%. And it's just by anchoring their data in those cloud-adjacent hubs and then optimizing for connectivity. Because when you do have your data anchored like this in those hubs, the next question becomes, how does my data move? And I'll give you an example of how this is done well. A fraud prevention AI company called Outseer saved up to $500,000 annually, not by renegotiating cloud contracts, that wasn't even included. It was just by changing how their data moved. And what they did is for interregional traffic, they used a private, scalable, multi-point to multi-point network, like the kind you can get on Equinix Fabric EVP LAN or with Fabric Cloud Router IP WAN. Now, what Outseer understood is that not every workload deserves the same connectivity. So they looked at connectivity in terms of tiers. For heavier traffic, like database replication or real-time analytics feeds or AI training pipelines, you definitely want to have private and often dedicated connectivity. That's going to reduce your egress fees, it's going to maximize performance, and it's going to make sure that your cost efficiency is there because you have the most direct connectivity you can get. For more typical traffic, like API calls between services, you can do a lot of different things depending on your specific requirements and where things are located. But I would always recommend you look at virtual network services first, like Equinix Fabric, because that scalability and that on-demand nature gives you optionality. Now, for dev, test, lightweight SaaS traffic, there you don't want to over-engineer it. Public internet is totally fine. And of course, these tiers are just illustrative. The point of all of this is just to be deliberate. To bring it all together, you want to make sure to first and foremost get your compute house in order. Once you've done that, look at data movement. And to optimize for data movement, you want to first anchor your data in these cloud-adjacent neutral hubs. And then you want to make sure you're looking at how to prioritize your connectivity to suit your specific requirements and traffic patterns. You want to make sure that you understand that data neutrality means negotiating power. Most teams are trying to optimize the bill, but what you want to optimize here is the geography. Where your data lives, how far it has to travel, and whether or not you're free to move it. Get those right and the bill will take care of itself. To learn more, please click on the link below, and thank you for watching.